Welcome back to the PFC podcast. The views and opinions you are about to hear are the speakers and do not necessarily reflect those of anyone else. Now on to the podcast.
Welcome back to the PFC podcast. This is Dennis, and this episode was recorded with the sponsorship and support of the Special Operations Medical Association. Thank you guys very much, and I hope you enjoyed the talk.
In terms of improving your foxhole, I am incredibly excited to start off what is, I think, the most important part of the Special Operations Medical Association, which is our opportunity for medics to highlight the incredible care that they deliver in difficult environments to great folks. And so this morning we have a incredible story of heroism and a wonderful success that comes from a very recent period of time in a bad place. And to let you hear the amazing story, I'm going to hand off to our expert panel. Thank you so much, gentlemen.
Thanks, sir. Good morning. Thanks for coming to listen to us ramble for the next 20 minutes or so. I just want to apologize in advance if this is a little less polished than the standard presentation here. My name is Brad Bigger. I'm an 18 Delta and 5th Special Forces Group. I'm medic on OVA 593.6, and these are my teammates.
Son Russ Robertson. I'm actually a electrical sergeant, so not non-medic on the team. Luckily, these two guys are medically trained, did good cross-training with me, which you'll find out they works though.
And I'm Vice General there. I'm actually the senior engineer for the team, but I'm also a special operations EMT. I'll let Brad kind of set the scene for you.
So October of last year, we were conducting the combat operations in the high desert in Iraq with our partner force. Shortly after sunrise, we were conducting post-assault procedures inside a cave in the clear when Mike and our EOD tech came across some untoward ordnance.
So me and my DOD tech heading inside, found a couple of these to UXO, decided to go ahead and take care of those. We laid charges on them, back out our cave, blew it. Once the smoke and dust settled, we went inside to go make sure the bit was clear. And as we were kind of checking a little bit deeper in the cave, all of a sudden I heard pop. I believe it was probably a gunshot. And then we both looked at each other and were like, hey, get out. And it's not a place to do CQB in a cave. So we start getting out of the cave. The next thing I know, there's a second pop. That was the name that took out my left leg, right about at the knee. And then as I'm continuing to move out of the cave, we had a third pop that broke my right leg. And then right as I got almost to the entrance of the cave, there was a fourth pop, which pretty much disabled my left arm. So at that point, I was pretty much just stuck near the entrance of the cave, had really no way to get out. And so I yelled for help, and I got Brad was there and wasting that time to jump in and pulling me out.
From just outside the cave, so I heard the commotion, a couple pops and a bang. I'm initially thinking IMD, so I yell into the cave for Mike. He says, I lost my leg, I'm trapped. I pull out a large coil of hosing that was blocking his way out. Got fixated for a moment on his mostly amputated leg, and I'm able to just pull him out to the mouth of the cave where I can start treatment. I think we're a safe enough distance from any follow-on explosions. As you can see in the photo here, this is what it looked like in front of that cave. There's a lot of debris out front. There's a kind of pre-assault fires, and the actual assault itself created a lot of debris. So I go to work, stopping the bleeding first on his amputated leg, which was relatively light. And as I'm applying the tourniquet, our partner force medic comes to assist. We get to the point where I think it got hemorrhage under control. And when we pick up twos again, I feel a pop on the back of my leg, and then you go down.
So quick out on that one too. There's a little bit of a theme for this whole thing. Is that humor is a big help. So when Brad manages to pull me out of the cave, I kind of land in his lap, and the first thing out of my mouth was I just looked up at him and went, "Well, hey, Brad, nice to see you." But yeah, he starts working on me, getting tourniquets all along our course medic, and unfortunately, situational awareness wasn't super awesome. I think I was the only person that actually was tracking that there were people throwing grenades at us. I think everybody else, to include even maybe my EOD tech, were all under the assumption that I triggered a BT trap of some sort, and that's what caused all ruckus. So we're, Brad's getting the tourniquets on me right there at the entrance of the cave, and next thing we know, gunshots start ringing out, and Brad winds up getting hit.
Just to hit on what Mike said, the situation where it was pretty minimal. At this point, I was about 100 meters away. Provided overwatch was my log outlet surrounding case. So I started to blast. Start making my way down to kind of find out what the situation is. Come up to Brad. Brad's already treated Mike. Was communicating me that Mike had lost his leg, which came in very quickly. Just looking down at it. I just want to point out the picture there and on the cave. And the picture doesn't really do it justice. It's a very deep water leading up to the cave, so getting access down there wasn't easy. So just try to communicate down with Brad and kind of find out what the situation was or where he was at in his treatment. And then try to get in as quickly as he can to move. So it won't take great for us, but so the shots start ringing out. I start to make my way up to Brett, just trying to put as many rounds as I can into what was a dark hole. So we're clearly silhouetted. So just trying to regain that fire superiority. That we're carrier fire. So hollered out to him, tell him to try to move to me, and then realize that he's in the lowest step. He's crawl as best as he can, but obviously a lot debris to try to get over. So got to Brad, was able to start right there. Did you up?
He doesn't do justice. When he got up and started to get reception fire superiority, it was the coolest thing I've ever seen in my life. I was literally laying there fully aware of how severe my injuries were, and I just looked up and went, "Oh, I wish I had this on camera." It's truly really cool to see. And also at this point too, once Brad's hit, he actually tosses me just perfect because he winds up putting me right behind that big rock in the middle area. So as the gunfire is going, I'm actually shielded by that rock. So he actually tossed me in a cup.
So gunfight ensues. I'm returning fire from their back, kind of a seated position. Forgot to mention that Ross had called out to me as I'm treating Mike to move him as soon as possible. So he's communicating well, telling me move to cover. I'm already returning fire, so we're in contact. He fights his way to me. We're both kind of laying down, covering fire as we break contact, which is pretty difficult. My legs are pretty useless. I was hitting both left and right leg. So getting over that debris was a difficult process. We're able to, at some point, eventually get to some low ground to hide cover and kind of get to the point where we can really start rendering. I'll talk that.
Yes. So once I get Brad joined back, just do a terrain and the amount of the volume of fire. Luckily, volume would picked up or fire force. So I was able to get Brad to a position where if you were recoverable enough, you weren't back as far as they'd like. But we're kind of on that threshold like grenade range, chain grenade range. So able to get a tourniquet on Brad. But obviously, a big bleeder there in his left block. So able to get a tourniquet on that. And then basically get ready to move him back for further care. Kid's still on at this point. And then I'm able to drag him back kind of around a corner to really get a good light sleep and then continue on the treatments. While that's happening, like you'll talk here,
So as this small thing's going on, I'm still stuck basically right down in that bowl there, for that big rock. And that was about like 6 feet deep. That's how it's receiving picture. So it's not easy to get in there with all that debris and get me out. Fortunately, 3 of our park course guys wound up tossing a rope down to me. So I just slipped, using my one good arm, slipped it under my armpits, and then just yanked me up. That was the first time I felt pain. It was pretty bad. They did manage to get me up out of the hole and then drag me away from the entrance. So I was out of the line of fire, and then proceeded to continue to put tourniquets on me. In totals, I wound up having 6 tourniquets, so 2 per injured limb. I wound up having to ask one of the park force, like, hey, I need to take these tourniquets right there when you talk with them. They got a picture. We stopped the bleed. At this point now, I've got my kid off and everything, and I'm doing a blood sweep, and I checked the neck, checked my chest, my back. I was like, hey, no injuries to thoughts. We've, controlled the bleeds. I'm still conscious. I'm alert. And this was finally at a point where I was like, I'm going to make this, laying down that all the gunfire's going off. I do, have a conversation with Gallier. And, once I got out, it's like, all right, I'm good. But bleeds control. I'm conscious, alert. We're going to be fine. And then after that, my captain probably coming down and seeing me, and I look up and I see this look in his face of just, what just happened to my guys, and, on my watch list, you could just see this sense of responsibility in space. And I just kind of looked up that and I was like, hell of a day we're having, Serge. Which immediately broke and he started laughing. He just goes, of course, only you could actively dine and still be Spartans. So, again, though, humor just kind of helping put everybody at ease. But they wind up getting me packaged up. They got me on litter, and then started moving me to the HLZ. And my JTAF is Johnny out the spot the whole time. He stayed right by my side. He made sure every time I set him down, he was checking my tourniquets. He was talking to me. He was, doing everything, we train on you're supposed to do. And it was solid. Like, it hurt, getting there, but you made sure I was okay the whole time. If you want to talk your feedback.
Oh, we'll try. Been along a little bit, but so Ross does a good march assessment on me, controls hemorrhage from both legs. We ended up kind of considering to apply tourniquets to my main bleeder on my left leg, one at a time. End up getting 4 on it, which in hindsight may not have been entirely necessary. Maybe it's just been blood cooling, but it stops the bleed. So got 2 on my right leg. I had a open fracture to my right tibia. Made it a little bit difficult to move, but otherwise looking pretty good. Ross went through my IFAC, which I had upgraded to front of a ABAG-9S IFAC Plus. One thing I hadn't done is really familiarize the team with that, so he kind of just dumped everything out of it to go through it. And couldn't find a lot of what he was looking for. But I got a wool socks on my finger, was able to keep an eye on, monitor my circulatory status, and we were cut off from the rest of the element as Ross, myself, and 2 Carter Force. So just the 4 of us had to make our way on our own to the HLC. The 2 Park Force were not the biggest guys, I guess neither is Ross. So he had to do it himself. So Ross was able to fireman carry me. Handle security, directs the partner force to hold security, navigate, communicate on the radio, all simultaneous, getting us to the HLC. Want want to talk about your unit, though.
I'll just say, like Brad mentioned, 4 tourniquets on that one leg. Having used soft T whites and cats, my partial to soft T white. Not that cats don't do the job, but somebody like Brad with some pretty big beefy quads. Obviously, that pain is going to ACL move once that tourniquet needs to crank out, and that's painful for the patient. Velcro is slipping. So even taking that tension out, tightening that windlass, that Velcro start to slip on his leg. Just the amount of pressure he's under, and I cranked that windlass go. It was I started to like your spots at bed. So take that for what it is. I'm salty one all day.
Yeah, and I should tell him to back it off a little bit, but he's a Bravo art. On the movement, we had to stop multiple times. We're going several hundred meters. It's just Ross carrying me. So he's going to about muscle failure, setting me down. Every time he sets me down, it does a good reassessment, reassesses all treatments, tourniquets. At one point, I'm kind of a blood trail. So we decide to pack my left leg and do a pressure dressing. But he's doing a good job reassessing every time we sat down. I did tell the partner course that we got to try and have somebody else try and carry me. So we took the bigger guy. He's pretty big for a partner force, probably Ross's size. And he got about 10 steps in before he just about dropped me. So Ross said he'd take it the rest of the way. Eventually we make it to the HLZ. He's definitely exhausted at this point.
So this picture here, yeah, that's me. You can see my right leg is not the way God intended it. But yeah, they want to get us to the HLZ. I think I arrived a couple minutes before Brad Ross did. And like I said, my JTAC is mandatory checking everything on me constantly the whole way there. And then I think when the partner force set me down, they set me down on a hill with my head downhill, which, yeah, my JTAC and I both got pretty upset about and yelled at him. So they turned me around pretty quick. But again, he was jumping on the spot, making sure I was taken care of. And then at one point, I did have to ask a favor. Said, hey, brother, I need you to do something for me. He goes, yeah. He goes, anything, man. I was like, I need you to chip balls. It's not fault. I got you. Make sure everything's good there. And then, we get the point. He's let me know that we had our other medic who was there. He was on his way. So we were in 2 different objectives, some distance apart. And so the other medic, he's on his way. And he's letting me know, hey, I can see him. He's at the bottom of the hill. So cool. Tell him to get me 30 milligrams ketamine. He's like, all right, cool. I hear him repeat it. Comes up, and we're getting ready to leave. Bertson's bound. And so our other medic comes up and goes, hey, man, like, I'm going to go ahead and snow you out first transport. You're okay, cool. And so we wound up giving both of us 100, and we went out, and then that was probably, I think we both agreed, that was actually the worst experience we had that entire day, was being in the keg hole. That was as close as I can describe to being in hell. It was just a world of shapes and colors, and I pretty much thought I was dead. And there was a set of rules that we couldn't figure out, and so we couldn't interact. And it was easily the worst experience I've ever had in my life. And I remember at one point waking up on the bird for a couple of seconds. I looked up, I realized, I was in a UH-60, and then I was right back out. And then the next thing I remember was waking up in the hostel of Bad Guy. And it was just an absolute feeling of elation and euphoria because I was no longer in that place. And when I opened my eyes, the first thing I saw was my friends, right? I saw the other medic on our team, and I looked to my left and I saw you sitting in the other bed, and I was like, oh, thank God I'm not there anymore. If you want to harp on that as well.
Yeah, a very similar experience. We both received 100 milligrams ketamine, IM. And I think in retrospect, we were a bit too afraid to use something like Dazzlein to assist with that because of our circulatory status. And I think it would have been useful, and I think I wouldn't have done the same thing because we think of Dazzlein as kind of a nice to have and not a need to have. But moving forward, I think it's much more a need to have. My KL experience was very similar. It was mainly like I was struggling with being able to have any effect on myself or the outside world. So just no control. And the same, I probably thought I was dead, and it was an experience. Also got the euphoria coming out of it, then in the hospital and seeing those friendly faces. It was huge. The other medic, he was able to fly with me on my medevac, and I woke up at some point and saw his face. I think I got fentanyl at that point too, so I was feeling a lot better.
You want to talk C3? Just probably the simplest spray I've ever. So as a non-medic, like seeing from the outside, seeing how these guys were reacting to the thing. I remember Brad saying over and over and over again, "There's one life, and then trying to fight to keep ID access as he's going into that keyhole and becoming combative. So something else to think about.
We've always talked about ketamine from a provider standpoint, but we've never looked at it from a patient standpoint. So now that Brad and I have seen both sides of that coin, I know we're definitely the trees a little bit different going forward. As far as like sustained improves go for this whole event, one of our big sustains is heavy cross train. I literally just before this deployment, I had taken the special operations versus medical technician course. I actually called my instructors after the event. I was like, hey, thank you so much for that information, because the fact that I was able to track my own progress and my own status just put me at ease. Like, that's what kept me calm the whole time, was knowing what's going on with my body while in that traumatic state. Also, Ross over here, and the cross-train, he was able to get a stick on Brad with no restrictor band, like first time go. And then wound up getting the second one later on, the HLZ. My JTAC, like just constantly making sure, I'm checked out the whole time. Everybody just kind of jumped up and filled the gaps, and it was awesome watching my team kind of come together. Then another,
what season Brad did they? Just gonna try and get through some more while we still have some time. And improve for myself, definitely, that I was attempting to implement in training prior to this operation. We definitely will be much more intentional about it in the future, is making myself get into a test march sequence, and that has kind of was security, and I know a lot of guys use that as security, but for myself, it's more of a situational awareness. So I think security is part of that, and it's just gaining an understanding of the situation, and just continuing through that cycle every time you restart your march sequences, just hitting that situation. A lot of sustains, I think, that we hit on before, like cross-training. Also, training to fight through injury. I hate it when guys go down in training and they just get grazed. So I think if you train that way, then you'll fight that way. And you fight like it. Also training for the B-medic and or the biggest guy on the team to go down and have the smallest guy carry him. It was kind of a Q course thing. If you thought Cadbury, she's messing with us. It kind of ended up being our worst case scenario that we lived through. Also, Ross did a good job of directing the casualty to move myself, and like staying in constant communication with the casualty, getting feedback from him. You're getting a good idea of what the situation is, his status, and it's good for the provider and it's good for the casualty. It was good for me to stay in contact with him. Mike hit on the humor piece. We do a training, and I think some people don't really understand that, think we're not taking it seriously, but it was helpful actually in the moment to kind of calm everybody. It's helpful for the patient, it's helpful for the provider.
Right. Yep. Yeah, once we got to the HLZ, I do remember my captain coming over to me, trying to, reassure him, hey, the bird's on the way, you would be okay. And it's just before Halloween, I looked over at him and I said, sir, I'm going to have a really great Pyroc mission. And it's one of those things that just calms everybody down. And use humor. He's the best medicine.
I think the last one I want to hit on is we had great advocacy starting basically really on the X-Wiz with our teammates, but when we got to Roll 3, we had the other medical with us. We had Ross with us. Ross stayed with us when we got to Orange Dole, when we got to Walter Reed. And then when we got to Walter Reed, we had a lot of people who were looking out for us. Andy in the audience here. We had some guys from the unit that was just extremely helpful. It was a really difficult time for my family, for my wife. That was probably the hardest part for me. It was the impact it had on my family. But they were here to help, and we really appreciate it. Yeah. We'll show some slides with our injuries that you can stomach here. It's really not that bad. This is mine. This is my left leg. This is anterior on the left, posterior on the right. This is my right leg. This is the open fracture. Took a direct shot to tibia. It was non-displaced, so not too bad. Basically had like 4 different pulls in that one. And then a couple direct bullets kind of just lodged in my right glute there.
Yeah, and this is me. So, transfer 1, amputation, and then open fracture to the right tid fit. So I got hardware in there now. And a sweeping robot leg. And yes, it's Brad and I going to take a little outside time in the hospital, looking very regal. This time we'll open it up to any questions. One question. Anybody got? Good, sure. Nope. No? Thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
But that being said, yeah.
So you stated you had a bad experience with the ketamine and that you had done things differently. What would you have done differently as far as pain management?
I'll let Brad speak on it as well, but for me going forward, we're going to keep ketamine at lower doses, i.e., just give them a bump to take the edge off, keep the pain down, to keep the patient conscious. Also nice to have a conscious patient to talk to. Or if I do have to put them under for whatever reason, is definitely use a benzo like Dazodin, Ativan, whatever we got on hand, just to keep them calm and try to prevent that traumatic experience for the patient.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. It's mainly just using the correct dose. We were taught correctly. It's just not enough, I think, training that we get ourselves to make sure we were using the correct dose. But I think also the use of midazolam, I think I would get probably like 2 milligrams after talking to some providers, and they were saying that should be safe even in a hemodynamically unstable patient. It shouldn't be a factor. So I think definitely a lot more training and use of ketamine with benzodiazepines. Thank you.
That's it for today's podcast. Make sure to go to our website, www.prolongedfieldcare.org. check out our free downloads and a ton of other helpful information. Grab a bag of our fresh roasted PFC coffee, links in the description below, and stay on the bleeding edge of combat and austere medicine. This is Dennis for the PFC Podcast, out.